Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie Crawford and welcome to another edition of Mrs. Cford Vlogs. Today I want to talk a little bit about book speed dating. I teach 8th graders and so the idea of speed dating is kind of funny. We talk about how that relates to what we're doing as the activity, but if you teach younger kids, you may want to change that name up. Maybe book dating or speed reading, something like that, where you're not having the idea of dating in. I totally understand that. For your older kids, though, I think they'll get a kick out of it. This idea, before you tune out when you hear book speed dating, is okay for science, for social studies. You're going to see the connection that we can put in. It doesn't need to be just about reading fiction in literature. There are really easy ways to make those connections. And I think that you'll find that it's kind of an enjoyable experience, a little bit different than normal, and it'll be something you can use easily in your classroom. Okay, so the first thing is to identify what it even means to have this speed dating with books. The way that I did go out and look at resources. No, I'm not the first person that's doing it, but I needed to find a way that worked for me, and I found that it was kind of a hodgepodge, piecing things together to make it what I needed. So I'm going to share how you can do that and then adapt it to what you need. So the first thing I did was I kind of looked for a setup. How did people set this up that was effective for them? And a lot of people that you will see online, if you search for it, are librarians who use their resources in the library. So we have a great district librarian, and she was really happy to help. And so she did make book selection a lot easier. So if you have a district librarian, get her involved or him involved. It was, again, a much better experience because they're the ones that are familiar with their book stock, and they do know what the kids are reading and kind of keep up to date with that also in a way that you aren't always able to. So the first thing was getting those books, and what I looked at, I saw a few different ways that people had set it up, but the way that I liked best was having tables where you would have 4 people at a table, and each table would have at least 2 books per person, 2 to 3. I went with 2. So it was 8 books at each table. So the 4 people sitting at that table would be able to sit down and pick which book they wanted to interact with, get to know better before committing to. Now, the whole idea is not to put all of one genre at a table. You mix it up. So you keep similar lengths so that someone doesn't go for the shortest book, but you mix up whether they're fantasy or realistic fiction, mystery, etc., and whether they have female or male protagonists. So for instance, this might be a selection that I made. So I might have this, which looks like a fantasy book. I might have this, which looks like my realistic fiction. I might have this, and I might not be sure what this is. When I read the back, I'll know more, but this is going to be more realistic. I have this. You can bring graphic novels into it, and I see a clear female lead here. I have this and this. So I do have a little mix. I have a mix of some fantasy. I have a mix of some realism. I have some male leads, some female leads. I have it all there. And they're all about the same length. So I would put them all at a table, and as the people sit down at the table, I give them a speed dating sheet. Now, I found this online. Again, I went and scoured what could I find that I felt would be a good resource where I didn't have to reinvent the wheel, and I found this, and I thought this was really funny for my age group. So if you can see this, it has spots for 5 dates. And what I really liked is that this wasn't requiring them to write how they felt about a book, because I didn't want them to show me how they could summarize or anything like that. I didn't want to make it a chore. I wanted them just to interact with some books that they may never interact with and possibly find one that they wanted to get to know better. So I think this is one of the funniest things. So you can see the way that you rate them. The heart, if you circle that heart down here, it means I think I'm in love. You've got your second one where you want to, it's intriguing, let's spend some more time together. You want to get to know it a little bit more. That third one, that face, maybe, haven't ruled you out completely, but I'm not sure. And then the last one there, it's not happening. So the fact that they can just easily circle it, they simply have to write the title and the author allows them a really quick interaction with the book, and then they know when they come back to it whether they liked it or not. Now, they're not allowed to check out any books from the first table. They have to wait until they go through all speed dating rounds before they commit to anything. So that's kind of the fun of it too. They do have to interact at each table they go with. I set the time for 3 minutes. So they would fill out their sheet. I would tell them to go ahead and judge a book by its cover. And then during that 3 minutes, they read the flaps on the book if it has it. They read the back of the book, and they start reading chapter 1. They just get as far as they can. If they only get a page into it, then that's fine. In that 3 minutes, that's all they need. They're really just doing that quick judgment. Is this something I think I would like more? The response to the activity was overwhelmingly positive. People enjoyed it, and we will do it again. You know, I'm thinking that this is a kind of activity you would maybe do once every quarter if you're in a quarter system. Is a good way to get students involved in those books again and finding something new. However, you can easily adjust this into social studies, into science, and informational text. So if you are studying something in your class and you've got like a series of topics that you would love to cover, but maybe there's just not time to go in depth with each of them, but you've got some great informational text, some great articles that are available to you, you could easily do the same kind of concept by printing out the articles or making a digital copy available, having a few versions. I think that the printed copies would make it easier for this. Have a few versions of the text available at the table, and as they sit down, they have to, you know, pick one and then fill out their speed dating sheet after they read it. For maybe you shorten that for an informational text. Maybe it's a minute that they get for that, 2 minutes. They start reading, they get an idea if they're interested in that. They fill out their speed dating sheet still, and at the end, that could even be used to group them into groups to study a certain concept, and then maybe they teach the class about what they learned about. That way people are still getting things that are interesting to them. They're still learning that new concept, learning that real world connection, and able to teach their peers about it. And they were able to really choose what interested them most. So that would be an easy application into other content areas and using informational text. So I hope that you've enjoyed the idea of speed dating for books. If you try it and want to share how it went, I would love to hear that. And if you've already done it and have any tips for people, that would be great too. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and I will see you again next time for the next edition of Mrs. Cford Vlogs.